Hello and welcome to this episode of the Knowledge Nest. This is the 8th episode of the Knowledge Nest. And this week we're going to talk about something that I have been increasingly involved with since November, since when it was released. And I've talked about it several times in previous episodes. And this is ChatGPT. This will be the podcast form of my presentation last week for the Idaho State University Graduate Research Symposium entitled Effectively Using ChatGPT in Education in Accordance with the Technology Consumer or Producer Model. So, like I said, this was given last week on March 16th at a symposium, and it was one of the first times that ChatGPT had been discussed in a graduate research symposium, so I hope that this will be educational. This, as you may have guessed, was geared toward educators or people who were in their graduate degrees. However, I think that students of all types can benefit from this, and even people who aren't students can benefit from learning how ChatGPT can be implemented and integrated into education beyond the inane or mundane, try this prompt, let's do this, let's ask it to generate a random piece of text. If you use it deliberately, consistently, and with a clear goal in mind, it can accomplish wonderful things. ChatGPT needs no introduction, but I'm going to overview a few facts about it anyway. It's a language and communications model that incorporates multiple data types into its outputs, its products. So you input text, you input a prompt, and then it gives outputs of various types. You can ask it for tables, code, you can ask it for a poem, a paragraph, nonfiction, fiction. You can ask it to be creative or non-creative, depending on what kind of prompt you create and engineer. It can create all sorts of different things. It was exposed to a massive number of texts by the people who developed it, OpenAI. And so it has a wide range of communicative styles. You can ask it to adopt different styles. And it models its syntax and semantics on hundreds of example interchanges that occurred between two humans, one who acted as the model for the user and one who acted as the model for ChatGPT. And so while it can't technically understand English, it can understand the words and the phrasing and what exactly you want. Sometimes it makes mistakes, as people do, but by and by, if you prompt it and if you continuously use it, it will eventually understand what exactly you're looking for, because it incorporates data from its interactions with you and with interactions from outside users. It doesn't collect your personal data, but it collects the data on what you're asking it to create, and so it will be able to help not only you more effectively, but it will be able to help other users effectively. So there are multiple concerns that people have had about ChatGPT, as you can imagine. It was released in late November 2022. It was broadly used by December 2022. In 5 days, it had gained 1 million users, and almost immediately, various concerns began to arise related to this tool. I used it in November 2022 from virtually the very beginning, a few weeks after it was created, or released to the public at least. And I noticed some implications of issues, but I've grouped these issues into 3 main categories. There are ethical concerns, there are academic concerns, and there are usability and form concerns. There are other concerns, but these are the major categories. The first category, ethical concerns, has 4 main topics. First of all, it's feared that professionals and other people in the workplace, academics, will be able to use it to foster plagiarism. And this is a concern with any tool. It all depends on how you use it. But the specific fear with ChatGPT regarding plagiarism is that people will be able to take copyrighted text or other people's text and have ChatGPT plagiarize it, and then they can take that product that's been created using copyrighted information and use it as their own without citing it. There are also fears about biases in the model. The text could have been selected where it was selected by humans, and so it could have caused ChatGPT to select certain characteristics or dispositions that are biased. Another thing is increased privacy and data dissemination issues. If you're putting your data in, will this cause lack of privacy? And this could be answered by don't put your personal information into ChatGPT until they've at least stated that they're not going to put personal information into the model. But they tell you, even right on the front page, please don't put your personal information into ChatGPT. So they guard against that. Data dissemination issues is related to, if I put data in, my personal research data, will it disseminate that to other people because it will go into its information kind of bucket, or its information collection? And that is an issue. But again, don't put your personal data into ChatGPT if you don't want it to be disseminated or at least contained in there. Another issue, potentially, is that it could cause changes to job descriptions and to task completion and task expectations in professional workspaces. There have been several companies that have raised concerns that they're going to fire employees because they don't need them, quote unquote, anymore, because they have ChatGPT to write things for them. And I would say that yes, there are changes to job descriptions, but no one's going to get fired because they don't know how to use ChatGPT. They may not get hired. Certainly, the job market is going to change because of this, but it's not going to be because they don't know how to use ChatGPT. It's because they don't know how to use it well. Definitely, there are going to be changes to job descriptions, but if people learn how to use ChatGPT effectively, they will be able to harness this in their new job, and it won't replace them. It will only enhance their current abilities. More on that a little bit later. And this is also related to the second category, academic concerns regarding ChatGPT. Educators are concerned that students will use it to plagiarize work. Instead of doing their own work, they'll, similarly to professional plagiarism, they'll take a research article, submit it to ChatGPT, tell it to summarize it, and use that output for their papers. And this is a concern. I would argue that it's more with the students than with ChatGPT, but if someone has paraphrased the professional work and used ChatGPT's output as their assignment, it is pretty easy, even without an AI detector, to tell that a paper has been paraphrased using ChatGPT. Another concern that's academic in nature is that a student can use it for easy completion of assignments, and therefore it will foster a lack of validated learning or a lack of effective learning. ChatGPT will be doing the metaphorical work, and the student will be doing none of the work. And I would argue that, again, much like the arguments above, it's all in how you use it. It will be on the students' heads if they use it, and it will be pretty easy to detect if people are using it to go through easy completion of assignments. And I would argue that in some ways it would be a useful tool. It shouldn't be discouraged in some cases. Obviously, we should encourage students to write, but using a tool is beneficial. Another argument that's academic in nature is that ChatGPT will increase the digital divide. And this is a divide between people who know how to use technology and people who don't. Beginning in the 1960s and even especially in the 1990s and 2000s, digital technology was becoming more mainstream. I remember even when I was in second, third grade, iPhones were coming out, becoming extremely important in the workplace, even in education. By the end of my elementary time in elementary school, digital phones, especially smartphones, were being used in educational contexts. Phones were used to access readings and all sorts of things. And it's similar with this. There's a fear that if ChatGPT is widely used, those who know how to use ChatGPT and those who don't will have a significant disadvantage. And there is some merit to this concern. However, as for now, ChatGPT, especially GPT 3.5, is free to use. And so my advice would be to learn how to use it effectively and learn how to prompt engineer. And it won't change everything. ChatGPT is a tool, but it's not going to eliminate all other forms of work and all other forms of education. The third is concerns about the usability or form of ChatGPT's work. Some argue that its arbitrary and selective responses or lack of response make it an ineffective tool. And this is somewhat true. This is why we have to have the human component. You can't use ChatGPT's output in the majority of cases as your completed work. You need to take it and edit it and make it your own. The arbitrariness and selective response tendency of ChatGPT can be modified with prompt engineering and effective use of the tool. However, again, this is being improved upon. OpenAI has vastly improved on the arbitrariness of its responses, especially in GPT-4, which was released just last week. Another issue is repetition of certain phrases and words. It is very redundant, but again, using temperature and top P controls, you can reduce the repetition of certain words and phrases and make it sound more natural, more creative. More on that later. And then another issue that was a huge issue and is kind of a minor issue, but again, with other concerns, this is why we have to have the human factor. Occasionally, ChatGPT will be incorrect in its responses. It requires human correction, but this may be a blessing in disguise. It all depends on how you use it, and when you correct it, it will internalize those corrections and it will respond accurately to future users who ask it similar questions. The fourth is a lack of connection to the outside resources and other technology, which is being improved upon. A week ago, when I mentioned that there was a lack of connection to outside resources, this issue was already being addressed in ChatGPT 3.5. It could pull up website links. It could pull up corrections to data. It could pull up all these different things. GPT-4 has vastly improved upon that. In just a week's time, there have been major improvements. And again, they're constantly being addressed and mitigated through various efforts by OpenAI and by others. And it's becoming used and integrated, especially through external API use of ChatGPT and GPT-4 by companies like Sight AI and Knowledge, and you've probably heard of Bing having that chatbot, and Bard, the new Google chatbot that is coming out. When it comes to education, ChatGPT is just like other technologies in the context of integration. It can be integrated effectively, it can be integrated ineffectively. Students can use it to cheat, or students can use it to bolster their educational learning. The TCOT model is applicable to this type of technology just like it is to other technologies. So what exactly is the TCOT model? It was developed by one of my instructors and multiple other professionals, Dr. Curry at ISU, and it has 4 levels or 4 sections that are divided into 3 levels of educational learning. The first is teacher-centered use of technology, or the teacher as the consumer. In this type of integration, the teacher consumes the technology. In other words, the teacher would use ChatGPT or read literature reviews or read articles on how to use ChatGPT. The second part is student-centered use, in which the teacher acts as a producer of the technology. And much like you would expect, the teacher uses ChatGPT to create something that will be used in her classroom and possibly demonstrates to students through this method how to use ChatGPT effectively. The third section, which is still student-centered and is in the level 1 of student-centered, is student as consumer. The student will consume uses of ChatGPT by their teacher, by others. And then the fourth level, which is also student-centered but is a level up from the student as consumer level, is student as producer. This level is one in which the student produces educational products using ChatGPT and integrates them into their educational process so that they learn how to use it effectively, and they've demonstrated that they know how to use it effectively. I use ChatGPT to create a case study from one of my textbooks. A teacher reading this and using it in their education and learning how to detect syntax and learning how it creates things based on prompts would be an excellent example of the teacher as consumer model. The teacher as producer model would occur if a teacher went into ChatGPT and asked it to create a product for them. I use ChatGPT to create a list of insights into Tantric Buddhism. I acted as a religious studies teacher, and I asked it to create a paragraph-based list of details about Tantric Buddhism that a student would be able to research. And it came up with a list of 6 or 7 items with paragraphs for each item, and then I zeroed in on one of those, the Tantric way, and I asked it to give me details about the Tantric way of Buddhism, and it complied. It gave me these certain things. I took it a step further, and I asked it to create a rubric. I asked it to help me create a rubric that would be able to grade an essay on Tantric Buddhism, using content knowledge, structure and mechanics, and critical thinking as major sections of this rubric. And it created 3 sections or 3 criteria for content knowledge, 2 for structure and mechanics, and 2 for critical thinking. And there was only one section, one criteria, one level, I guess I should say. And then I asked it to create a 3-tiered level of these criteria, and the first level would be 3 points, the second level would be 2 points, and the last one would be no points. And it did. It divided those into 3 and put it in a nice little table for me, and all I had to do was take it out and edit it a little bit. It took me all of 5 minutes, but I had a fairly detailed rubric that could be used for assessing an educational product. The next level, student as consumer, has multiple ways in which students can consume ChatGPT products. The first is examining and critiquing productions of ChatGPT. The second is producing the items suggested by ChatGPT prompts. The third is comparing productions not made by ChatGPT to those created by ChatGPT. And the fourth is analyzing the facts and data generated by ChatGPT. So you can use the weaknesses of ChatGPT and examine how it works, examine how it communicates, and see how that compares and contrasts to your own communication. And this may seem like just an English or a communications tool, but you can use it in many different contexts, and these contexts will just improve as time goes on. We have to differentiate between these examples and the ones for student as producers of technology, which is the next section, because in the student as consumer examples, students view products of the technology and analyze them. The assessment is their analysis of a previous production, but in the students as producer examples and models, students interact with ChatGPT and use its results to create a finished product. So in the student as producer section of ChatGPT use, students use prompts to create a well-crafted first draft of an essay on a particular topic, and you can go through multiple iterations of this. Students can use prompts to generate appropriate and thorough codes or data for specific purposes, such as computer code or a metadata record. I've used it to create mock-up XML records and HTTP code for websites. Students can create items using ChatGPT and then perform the student as consumer tasks on those products. And many more examples exist on how to use these products of ChatGPT as producers, how to create them and how to assess them. The content for this podcast was created using multiple sources. I first have to thank Drs. Curry, Jackson, and Morin for their article, It's Not Just the How, but Also the Who, the Teacup Model of Technology Integration. Thank you, Dr. Dang and Dr. Lin, for your article, The Benefits and Challenges of ChatGPT and Overview. Thank you, Dr. Algersma, for ChatGPT and Beyond, How to Handle AI in Schools, which was an article on Common Sense Education website. And Drs. Goijin, Have, and Have created ChatGPT Evolution or Revolution. Many thanks to Dr. Curry for his encouragement of my investigation of ChatGPT. This presentation and other aspects of my work related to ChatGPT are the result of several conversations that I have had with him. So that is how you can use ChatGPT effectively in your educational endeavors. But what are the details? How can you effectively convince ChatGPT to create these products that you want it to create? And this is the art of prompt engineering with ChatGPT or with any other model or any other tool. Prompt engineering is the use of text effectively to kind of manipulate ChatGPT to give it exactly what you want. And this doesn't mean that it will work in one prompt. You will have to iterate several times, many times, 5 or 6 times, if possibly more, until you get close to a finished product, which you will still then have to edit and refine to make your own. And this will be something that I will talk about in a future episode of the Knowledge Nest. I have a knowledge document. If any of you want to have access to this, please ask me for it. I'm willing to give it to you. But it covers all sorts of different prompts, how to use them, different ways you can manipulate your prompts to get ChatGPT to produce certain products. I am very excited about this technology, and I hope that you are too, and I hope that we can all learn how to integrate this and other technologies, digital technologies, into our education and into our learning in general throughout life. Thank you, and do not forget to read The Giver of Stars for our next book club, which will be happening in April. It is a very good book. I'm on hold for it currently to read it, but please read it and please enjoy it. Take it in. We're excited to see you, and we're excited to see you at many other events. And I'll see you next week on the Knowledge Nest.